Super Mario Bros. 3. Truly a legendary game in the Super Mario series. It was an expansive, action-packed adventure that felt absolutely massive for its time. Nintendo's strategy was simple yet effective. Take everything great about the original Super Mario Bros. And supercharge every aspect. They expanded the power-ups, created 8 new kingdoms with their own distinct themes, and, of course, they brought in a ton of new enemies. Over 50 of them, including entirely new characters to the series, as well as new variants of enemies from the 1985 original. Now in this video, I've gathered the best of Super Mario 3 enemies, and narrowed them down to my top 10 favorites. There might be a few surprising ones on my list, but I'll tell you a little bit about each one of these awesome enemies and why I think they're great. Beetles as characters have been a part of the Super Mario series right from the start, with Buzzy Beetle appearing in the original Super Mario Bros. But when Super Mario 3 hit the scene, Nintendo unleashed a whole new infestation. Of course, we saw the return of Buzzy Beetle, now with the ability to walk on and drop from the ceiling. We were also introduced to the new flying Para-Beetles, which you don't actually want to hurt these guys, you have to ride them. But my new favorite Super Mario 3 Beetle has to be Buster Beetle. This little critter moves around like a regular beetle, but at a much faster pace. The real twist comes when Buster encounters a white block. He doesn't just bump into it, he'll stop, pick it up, and throw it directly at Mario. His thrown blocks can even activate other blocks, including question blocks. Back in the day, this was very unexpected. Seeing another character interact with the same type of blocks that you could grab yourself, it just made this world feel much more alive. Super Mario 3 was really Buster's time to shine. He never became a mainstay enemy in the Super Mario series, but he certainly left a lasting impression on me as one of the most memorable enemies in the game. Super Mario 3 was a huge game, and without the ability to save, every playthrough meant starting from scratch at World 1. As you progressed, the game threw new and tougher enemies your way. One of the later game enemies that always stood out to me was Spike. Spike might look like a harmless little green guy at first glance, but don't let his appearance deceive you. He earned his name for a reason. Spike can open his mouth to an alarming width, reach into his stomach, and pull out a spiked ball, which he then tosses at Mario. Oh, that's a biohazard. Running into Spike in the game always felt like a sign you were getting pretty far. He first shows up at the end of World 3, but most of the time you'll see him towards the end of World 6. He can actually be pretty challenging since the Spike Ball is pretty much unstoppable, but the fact that Spike is vulnerable to just about every power-up, as well as being stomped, well, it evens out the difficulty. Despite never being the star of the show, Spike has remained a staple in 2D Super Mario games and many other Mario titles as well. But seeing this guy always reminds me of Super Mario 3, and it's truly heartwarming to see Nintendo continue to include him in the latest games. And stop! This is the very moment when we first met a legendary character in the Super Mario universe. This is the very first encounter with Thwomp, a big stone bully who wants nothing more than to make a Mario pancake. Thwomp as an enemy is a genius idea. A big stone block that sits there until you try to go under it, at which point it tries to smash you. I think they're probably one of the creepiest looking enemies too, just because of that perpetually angry yet haunting stare they give off. In Super Mario 3, Thwomps can move either vertically or horizontally. They are tough enemies, but not invincible. You can take these guys out with either a star, a hammer, or by stomping them with the Tanuki suit. I think Thwomps are fantastic enemies, and one of the best characters to come out of Super Mario 3. So simple, but still very intimidating. Everyone knows about the Hammer Brothers, but have you ever encountered the Fire Brothers? These guys were some serious troublemakers in Super Mario 3. According to the princess's note at the end of World 4, the Fire Brothers swiped her magic warp whistle and hid east of the sand dunes, which is actually in a secret area on the far right side of World 2. You can access it by getting the hammer that's dropped by the Boomerang Brother and using it to break the boulder tucked away at the top right of the world map. This is what the princess referred to as the east side of the sand dunes. Here you can stop by the Mushroom House for a frog suit before heading down to confront the Fire Brothers. In the entire game, there are only 3 Fire Brothers, the 2 guarding the whistle here, and another in the Hammer Brother Museum style stage in World 8. Nintendo didn't make it obvious, but the Fire Brothers were pretty much put into the game just to guard this magic whistle. They are pretty challenging enemies that will really keep you on your toes with their relentless fireball attacks, but their uniqueness and the thrill of facing them made them one of my favorite enemies in the game. Nintendo didn't forget about the piranha plants when creating Super Mario 3. Oh no, they introduced some entirely new species. Alright, so this right here is the piranha plant, and this guy is called a Venus fire trap, and this is called a Piranhacus giganticus. And this right here is my favorite new plant from Super Mario 3, Ptooie. Ptooie is a clear evolution of the piranha plant, now equipped with legs and the ability to walk around. You can tell a Ptooie from a piranha plant by the spiked ball they suspend above their face. I think they blow on it. I wonder where they get those spiked balls from anyways. Wait a minute. Spiked? Ptooies can be either potted or free-roaming. The potted ones are tall plants that don't retreat into the pipes, and the added height from the floating ball can make it tough to get over them. You can't stomp them, but they're vulnerable to just about every power-up, so just don't face them naked. Still, they don't actively go after Mario, and from what I can tell, they're just doing their own thing. Next on my list is an enemy that's caused many of us some serious anxiety. This is Boss Bass, an evolution of the flying Cheep Cheeps from the original game. Boss Bass is not to be taken lightly. He'll swim back and forth in a shark-like manner, waiting for the perfect opportunity to hop up and scoop Mario off the stage in one bite. When you got a Boss Bass on your tail, you don't ever want to be caught down too low on the stage. Get too close to the water, and you're fish food. Boss Bass can only be found in a couple of stages in World 3 of the game, and both of the stages are expertly crafted to float up and down, ensuring you're never quite safe. It doesn't matter if you have a power-up or not, this guy is one of the only hazards in the game that can instantly take you out. Boss Bass was absolutely one of the most memorable characters in Super Mario Bros. 3. When it comes to the most well-known enemies in the Super Mario Bros. Series, Boo is a household name. This little guy was introduced in Super Mario 3 and was originally known as Bo Diddley, which is assumed to be a nod to the classic American R&B singer Bo Diddley. Boo is a very shy ghost who just can't manage to look at you in the face. He'll only attack you when your back is turned. Boo is found in many fortresses across the game and can be a rather challenging enemy. He's invulnerable to most power-ups, but not all of them, though I must say it kinda feels wrong taking him out. Boo went on to become one of the best-known bad guys in the series, but it all started here, in Super Mario Bros. 3. One of my favorite parts about Super Mario 3 was always how many bosses were in the game. This is a game where Nintendo introduced us to the Koopa Kids, where after each world you have to battle it out with one of these guys. Now to be honest, most of these battles were pretty easy, but the one that was most fun to me was definitely Ludwig Von Koopa. Ludwig was the boss of the Plant World 7, and his battle was very frantic. He'd bounce around the room, shooting his wand at you. His stomps would shake the entire room, and if you were standing on the ground when he shook it, you would be temporarily stunned. And he moves quick, so if you get frozen in place, it can go really bad. The Ludwig Von Koopa battle was a bit similar to the battle with Roy Koopa in World 5, but I'll give Ludwig the edge here. His room layout's a bit more uneven, making it more challenging. And in my experience, Ludwig moves faster than Roy. Personally, I find the Ludwig Von Koopa battle a better challenge than the final battle with Bowser. Bowser absolutely has the more memorable battle, but Bowser's battle is almost criminally too easy, where there's not a lot of ways he can actually hurt you, since Nintendo barely gave him any collision. Like at all. But yeah, most of the battles were pretty easy, but the Ludwig battle was a good challenge and was my favorite boss in the game. Super Mario 3 had a lot of unusual, but very imaginative enemies, and one of my all-time favorite unusual enemies is Chain Chomp. Although it's restrained by a chain, the Chain Chomp will repeatedly try to break free, lunging at you if you come near it. But if you let it continuously tug on its chain for a while, it'll break free. The key to dealing with a Chain Chomp is to keep your distance and time your movements carefully to avoid its powerful bites. Usually, enemies in games were free to do whatever they wanted. This was really the first time I saw a game where a bad guy was restrained like this. It felt dangerous getting anywhere near this guy, and the fact that he could break off his leash was absolutely insane. If there were a single enemy that makes me think Super Mario 3, that has got to be the Angry Sun. We first run across the Angry Sun in the quicksand level of World 2. You enter the stage and immediately notice a giant sun in the corner of the screen. About halfway through the stage, the sun springs into action and starts actively trying to attack you. You actually face the sun again later in World 8-2. In this level, you have to climb up and down giant hills, avoiding quicksand and Venus fire traps. About halfway through this stage, the Angry Sun shows up for a final encounter. This time it's a lot more difficult, where the game expects you to bounce on note blocks while avoiding the sun. There is a trick here where you can travel through the very first quicksand pit and end up in a secret area. When you leave this secret area, you'll be sent more than halfway through the stage past the Angry Sun, and you won't end up triggering it. The Angry Sun was such an unexpected moment and was my favorite enemy of Super Mario Bros. 3. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it and hit that subscribe button for more videos like this. Thanks so much for your time today. Goodbye.